Hello and welcome to the Aviation Briefing with me, William Hallowell. In this podcast series, I speak with media and industry guests about the biggest topics and news stories in aviation. Today, I'm joined with Mohammad Taher, who is known as the airport guy. He does really interesting videos about the behind the scenes of what goes on at the airport, and he's also a social media influencer. So, Mohammad, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me, William. It's a pleasure.
So let's talk today. I mean, you've recently been made an aviation ambassador by the Department for Transport. What does that mean? And I mean, what work will you be doing around that?
So it's interesting you mentioned that because when I was applying to be an aviation ambassador and I read through the things that were required of me once I become an ambassador, I realized that the things that I'd been doing for the past 5 years is basically what they wanted me to continue doing. And those are things like outreach, speaking to young people about the aviation industry, using social media to actually inspire more young people to join the industry, and also just be like a voice that connects this industry that can sometimes feel a little bit out of reach to a generation that is actually very passionate about it, yet sometimes just doesn't know where to start. So actually bridging the gap between the young people who really want to be in the industry, and the companies that are eager to find that talent, being that bridge that allows the talent to recognize what the roots are into the industry and also what possibilities there are in the industry is what it's all about. And that's something I've been doing for the past 5 years. But now I guess I get the fancy title of the aviation ambassador. But it really just pours out of my heart. It's something I love doing anyway.
So talking about your platform, I mean, you've got quite an impressive number of followers, and as you say, outreach. I mean, when did this start? And for people who don't really know you, I mean, what kind of content does your videos entail?
So my content is usually videos that are about 40 to 50 seconds long, where I explain how things work in a very simple to understand way. Simple questions like, where does my bag go when I leave it at check-in? How does it arrive to the other destination? Does a plane reverse, or does somebody have to do something to push it back? Where do the bags go underneath the plane? How does like an engineer check the inside of a jet engine? Like stuff like that. Like questions that you don't really think about until somebody's asked it and you go, oh, that's actually, how does that work? And what I found is that sparks a curiosity in the minds and hearts of young people that could last them a lifetime. And I've seen young people who say, man, I saw that video about ground handling and I was so interested. Like I went and got a job as a ramp agent in my local airport and I love it. And you think, cool, man, that's what it's all about. Like we wanna show people what happens behind the scenes because my whole journey started because I got a chance to do a 1 day tour experience of a company called Marshall Aerospace up near Cambridge. 1 day where I got a chance to look behind the scenes completely changed my life. So when I joined Heathrow and I joined the airport and I started to look around, I realized like, wow, I feel kind of guilty looking at all this and seeing all this cool stuff, knowing that there's like a 16-year-old version of me that would like be so keen to learn about this. So the way it started was I used to take pictures. I love taking pictures and love making videos. Ever since I was a kid, I was that annoying kid holding the camera on family holiday, just making videos of everything. So I was like, I'll take pictures of something. And I used to write these captions of like what it is that I'm learning, what it is that like this journey through an airport. I was like learning so much. And I loved it so much. It kind of overflowed onto the internet, is the best way to describe it. Like this passion of mine just overflowed onto the internet. And specifically airports, because nobody talks about the airport. Everybody talks about the airplane and how cool the airplane is. But there's this like underdog of like the airport that kind of just exists, but no one realizes what happens to upkeep and uphold it. So my content takes people behind the scenes in that regard, and sort of opens up a whole new world that people just take for granted previously, and then shows them what opportunities they have to build a career within that space.
It's really interesting because I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues this morning actually about your kind of behind the scenes content, and I was kind of just saying I think it does kind of spark curiosity because I kind of drew that comparison of that scene in Toy Story where the baggage goes after check-in you've got that huge building with all these conveyor belts, and nobody actually knows what happens. So yeah, it's certainly interesting. But in terms of I suppose your demographic in terms of your audience, I mean, is it mostly young people that kind of get interested in your videos, or is it kind of a wide range of ages?
The main chunk of the I guess the community is young people, but what's amazing is that you have people who are sort of later on in life, sort of maybe in middle of their career, who really loved aviation growing up, but never maybe had the guts or the courage to build a career within it, not realizing. So they maybe went down like a finance route, not realizing they could do a finance career within the industry. And actually, I'm there going, listen, I know you love aviation and you think it's too late, but it's not. You can still make that leap across. So it's amazing. I have people who have retired, who are just sat at home, just scrolling, enjoying, learning about the airport. And I have parents who have a 4-year-old child who they show, when kids just want to scroll, right? The parents would literally give them my page and be like, here, scroll on this. And then you have like a 4-year-old who sits there scrolling all the way to the bottom of the videos on my page. And you think to yourself, these kids are learning, like they're learning stuff. And I make an active effort whenever I make a video. A 4-year-old should be able to understand this video. I don't use any big words. I don't use any complicated jargon. I do it in a way where I have in the back of my mind, whenever I'm filming a video, that I'm talking to a 4-year-old child. How can I explain this complicated bit of engineering to a 4-year-old child? And I'm quite dyslexic, so I like to draw imagery. Like I think in images, I think in analogies, and I use that skill. It's what held me back for so many years as a teenager, my dyslexia. But now it's become like a superpower because I can look at something, I can understand the technicalities of it, and then I go, oh, so it's kind of like this, and they go, how did you just summarize it in a sentence? Like, yeah, it's kind of like that. And then I just do that on my videos. So the demographic is my target audience is young, but it's amazing how many other people benefit from it as well.
Well, it's certainly, a very unique platform that you've built. But in terms of, you say that what you're doing, or what you're going to be doing as an aviation ambassador won't really change what you have been doing on social media, with what you've done so far. But in terms of, getting young people into the industry, that is quite an important conversation. We hear a lot of kind of talk about it in the industry about how do we engage young people, how do we get the next generation of aviation professionals. But from when I've spoken to other key industry professionals, they say that really there isn't actually that much going on in terms of the big companies to actually get these young people. So I mean, in your view, what can the wider industry do to kind of inspire more people to join?
I think the world has changed drastically over the past 15 years, and that's something that is at the heart and center of this conversation. We can't approach this conversation the same way we would have done it 15 years ago. We have to realize that the way young people consume information has completely transformed. The way they engage with the world has completely transformed. And if you ask a young person, what do they spend most time on? Or even just look at the data of how much time young people spend on social media, it will blow your mind. They spend more time on social media than they do eating. Like they have literally, that's why they call it the feed. It feeds their brain. Like it is exactly what is the like fast track into their mind. So if you want to get a fast track access into a young person's mind, you need to learn how to play the game of social media to create content that takes your organization and what it does and presents it in a way to young people that makes them interested. I think that is probably the biggest leverage that we have in this modern day is this thing in our pockets called a phone, and the fact that we know that everybody has a phone in their pocket. An organization needs to be able to look at what they do and think, what is it that what we do that we can turn into small nuggets of information that we can present in an engaging, exciting way on a platform like TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat that can make a young person think, damn, that is cool. I want to be a part of that. And actually, the challenge is that a lot of people in these organizations, when they do make a video about what they do, it's very proper, it's very tight, it's very, it's not very authentic. And there's like a young people have a sensor in the back of their mind of authenticity. They can tell an advert from a mile away. So the moment you get a nice flashy advert of like, come join our careers program, they swipe as soon as they see that. They don't even give it the time of day. And we all know this because we do it as well. But if you're able to create a piece of content that says, let me explain to you how this thing works. And actually, have you ever wondered why that doesn't do this, or why you can't do this, or why you can do that? They go, hold on a minute. Now that you mention it, I'm curious. I'm curious. Why? Let's use the same science and tactics that the likes of Mr. Beast and all these amazing YouTubers are using, but combine them with the aviation industry. We can make these intriguing short videos that inspire educate and empower a young person to ask questions. And then by the end of it, you go, oh, and by the way, we're hiring for our next apprenticeship. So if you want to come and join us, click the link in the bio and come and join us. And that's exactly what I've decided I want to do for my career. I want to be able to go into an organization, understand, because I come from a technical engineering background. I like to understand technical things, but what I like more is explaining it in a simple way. So how can I take something technical from an organization, simplify it into a little video, and then put a call to action so that any young person who sees that video knows exactly where they can find more of that.
So, I mean, in terms of, going back to your social media work, I mean, isn't it true? I've heard from a number of people that you were actually brought on, your videos were seen as, very effective by Heathrow Airport, and they actually got you to do some work for the official, social media channels at the airport.
That's right. So our apprenticeship at Heathrow Airport, and I say our in the past tense, when I was working at Heathrow Airport, 53% of apprentices and graduates who joined the graduate program or the apprenticeship, when asked the question, you know, did the videos that I made inspire you to join, put their hand up and said yes. 53%. That's over half of the population of young people who joined the early careers programs within the engineering team. And it was all, and most of those young people that put their hand up were those from diverse backgrounds. So not only is it the young people that are inspired, but it's also those that you don't usually get a chance to see these opportunities. So I actually presented that to management at the airport, and I showcased the data. It's not about nice things, it's about data. If you can have the data behind you that stands by it, then you're able to prove it. My channels online actually overtook Heathrow Airports in terms of numbers, followers. If you had TikTok and Instagram, the engagement trumped the videos. The reason why is because it was like authentic and real. It was just a person who loved what they do, sharing it with the world, and that can be seen. So when I presented that data, and I sort of put together a proposal as to what I'd love to do. One of the senior managers thought this is a great opportunity and actually created a secondment for me within the social media team to actually try and embed some of those lessons that I'd learned doing it on my own back into the organization. But since then, I decided actually, you know what? I think I want to serve the industry as a whole, and actually, I feel like the potential to serve the industry as a whole is far greater. So I've decided to resign and actually do this full time for the entirety of the aviation industry.
Yeah, I saw recently that you had resigned from Heathrow. That is something I want to move on to shortly. But based on kind of what you were just saying, there was kind of two questions I'd like to ask. So, in terms of, you kind of said different backgrounds of the people
Mm.
that were inspired. Is, diversity something that you are focused on in terms of your engagement? And also, I mean, in terms of, the way you've kind of describing your content and the way you specifically try and reach out to younger people, do you think that's something that, you say that Heathrow Airport's figures on social media weren't as good? Is that because, you're coming at this from a younger, perspective? You're looking at how specifically to target them rather than just putting out, recruitment ads?
So to answer the first question, is diversity something that I think about 100%, 100%. I think there are so many stereotypes. Growing up as somebody from a diverse background who was told that they don't hire Muslims in the aviation industry, there are so many stereotypes like this and others where people might not see somebody who looks like them, and in the back of their mind, that's a little voice that nags that says it might not be possible. So when I do create the videos, I do consciously try and present role models who might look like the person who we're trying to attract into this industry. If we want to recruit, I don't know, a ramp agent or a dispatcher, and we have the choice of filming from the team, and we have a woman, we have and we have a man. Which one would I rather choose? I would rather choose to actually showcase the woman, because young boys know they can be a dispatcher, but young girls might not recognize that they could be a dispatcher. So actually, we can really leverage the talent that we already have that's from a diverse background to create more of a flow of diversity into our industry. So that's something that I definitely feel like if we're able to use a visual representation of somebody who looks like the people we're trying to attract, that's a huge win. The second thing about the numbers and the engagement on social media, I think one thing that is very important to realize with the next generation is that they resonate more with people than they do with brands. Whenever an organization says something under their logo as an organization, it comes with a pinch of salt. People don't really want to engage with it as much. However, when it comes from an authentic, independent voice, like a quote unquote influencer, I don't like that word, but I'll take it. As an influencer, they've built a relationship with that person. They know that that's the sort of person they'll be sat next to in the canteen having a chat. It's not a corporate sat in a meeting thinking what's our agenda and how can we turn that into a message. Rather, it's just somebody who's loves what they do and is sharing it, and that can't be replaced. That can't be replaced. So actually being a quote unquote influencer, I feel like the reason why the impact I was able to have made in terms of engagement superseded Heathrow's was simply because I was a human being, not hiding behind a logo. The moment you hide behind a logo, you create a barrier. And I think actually what organizations need to realize moving forward is that you need to work with the independent voices that people resonate with rather than just try and stick your logo on it. Because the moment you stick your logo on it, it loses a touch of authenticity, which was the only thing that really engaged them in the first place.
And so yeah, you've resigned from Heathrow. Firstly, I suppose why? You say it was your kind of dream job, and I suppose what are your plans now alongside being an aviation ambassador? Is it just to continue the work you're doing, or are you kind of going to step it up and do something else alongside it?
So definitely step it up. The reason I resigned from Heathrow was because I saw a genuine need in the industry. It's not just would be nice anymore. If you look at the data and you understand where the data is going, the skills gap is getting bigger, not smaller. We need help to be able to reduce that skills gap. And actually, that's something I recognize that potentially I could really move the needle on, not just in the airport space at one airport, but let's try and do this across the entire sector. Everything from aircraft manufacturing and design, all the way to operations and airlines, all the way to air traffic control, even the space sector. How can we try and embed this authentic voice, this ability to use social media that can genuinely move the needle, as we saw done at Heathrow, but across the entire industry? And I've built that skill set over the past 5 years. And I think it's time to allow the rest of the industry to benefit and actually maybe leverage some of the insights that I have in order to move the needle on their own campaigns and their own recruitment. So the reason why I went independent is because I wanted to be able to help more and add more value to this industry. And I couldn't see an alternative to do that except for, take the leap. It's a huge leap of faith. But it's a problem that I know needs solving. And I know I have some of the solutions that could genuinely help organizations make a difference.
Well, look, Mohammed, thank you very much for joining me. It's genuinely been fascinating to talk to you. So it'll be, great to see, where your journey takes you into the future. But yeah, thank you once again for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much, William. Really appreciate it.
Thank you to everyone who was listening. This has been William Hallowell for the Aviation Briefing.